Okay, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Tonight we are starting a new Mishnah, new topic, completely new subject, and we can hopefully finish the entire Mishnah and Gemara. So tonight's class is going to be a good, self-contained topic of discussion. There's a lot, it's extremely dense. I don't know how deep we could go into everything, but we can have a very nice discussion tonight about different people who are obligated who are not obligated in the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael. And as we speak about people who are not obligated in the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael, that'll then take us onto a list of other mitzvot. Primarily, the primary discussion here is going to be for ladies, for women. We're going to speak about whether women are obligated to say Shema Yisrael. And also, we'll speak about minors. Boys under the age of bar mitzvah, are they obligated to say Shema Yisrael? And when you open that up, then we start asking, what about tefillin? What about mezuzah? What about Berachot 20A-20B? And we're going to have a lot of these questions of whether ladies, children, and also abadim. We're going to speak about servants, whether they're obligated in mitzvot, which we're going to touch upon that as well. It's a completely brand new Mishnah. It's starting the last line of Daf Chaf Amud Aleph 20A. So if you're looking in the article, it's 20A3, that last line. And then we're going to flip to 20B, to Chaf Amud Bet. So let's get started. Without further ado, we are starting from Daf Chaf Amud Aleph 20A3, the last line, starting with the Mishnah. Here we go. The recording is on. Sharing screen. Yalla. Nashim, ladies, la'avadim, and servants, which we are going to say that what type of servants are these? These are non-Jewish servants. There are two types of servants. There could be a Jewish servant, and a Jewish servant is obligated in all the mitzvot because the Jewish servant is a Jew, just as any other Jew would be obligated. But a non-Jewish servant who enters a Jew's house has certain mitzvot that they're obligated in doing. Okay, so this is what we call an Eved Kanaani, a non-Jewish servant coming into the home of someone that is not like a worker, but it's something we don't really have this nowadays. No one is really a quote unquote servant anymore. You hire an employee. We're not talking about an employee. We're talking about someone who is like their time is owned by someone else. Okay, so that's what avadim are. Ukitanim and minors. This will have to define, but let's just go with a boy under the age of bar mitzvah. And again, Rashi and Tosot are gonna define for us what type of minor. But these three people, women, these three categories: ladies, avadim kanaanim, eved kanaani, and minors, peturin min kiryat shema. They are not obligated in the requirement to recite Shema. What's the requirement to say Shema? How often do we have to say Shema? Twice a day. When? Once in the morning, once in the night, or more precisely, okay, when you're going to sleep, the time that people sleep, the time that people get up. And we spent a lot of the Masechet so far talking about defining when is the start time for the evening Shema, when is the end time for the evening Shema, what is the start time for the morning Shema, what is the end time for the morning Shema. Now that we went through all of the times and who's what and when someone is obligated, if a mourner is not obligated, and someone who's in a burial is not obligated, and someone who's doing a mitzvah is not obligated, now we're talking about categories of people who are not obligated. Women are not obligated in Shema. Eved Kanaani is not obligated in Shema, and Kitanim are not obligated in Shema. Okay, let's finish the Mishnah and then I'll come to the questions. And now we turn to the next page on the Chaf Amud Bet. If you're using the article now, it's 20B1. Umina Tefillin, also from Tefillin. These three categories of people are not required to wear Tefillin. Ladies, not required. Eved Kanaanim, minors, they don't have to wear Tefillin. However, the Chayavin b'tefilah, they are obligated in saying the tefilah. Uve mezuzah, in the mitzvah mezuzah, a woman who lives, let's say she lives by herself. She has an apartment. She's not married. She is obligated to put on mezuzah. She's obligated in tefilah. Uve Berachot 20A-20B. And so too, a woman is obligated to recite Berachot 20A-20B. A woman who eats, after they finish eating, has to say Berachot 20A-20B. So what we say here, we were talking about 5 mitzvot. Mitzvah of Shema, of Tefillin, of tefilah, which is referring to the Amidah, mezuzah, and Berachot 20A-20B. 5 mitzvot. We are saying that women, avadim, servants, and minors are not obligated in the first two. They're exempt from Shema and from Tefillin. However, they are obligated in tefilah, mezuzah, Berachot Hamazon, and our Gemara is going to delve into this and ask, well, why this? Why that? What and under what circumstances? And that's going to be the discussion of the daf. Okay? Questions? Go ahead, Elon. Okay, very good question. So Elon's asking about the Eved Kanani. Again, I wouldn't harp too much on it because it's not so applicable nowadays. But the rule is as follows. We don't have this anymore. But it used to be that if someone owed someone money and they couldn't pay him back, now what do? You get yourself a good lawyer, you file for bankruptcy, and then you just continue living your life. But it used to be that if you owed someone, you had debt, and you couldn't pay him back, so you would have to work for the person until you've come to terms with whatever debt it is. Now, if it's a Jew, that's called a Eved Israel. So Eved Kanaani, once an Eved Kanaani comes into the home of a Jew, the Eved Kanaani is obligated in certain mitzvot. An Eved Kanaani has to do certain mitzvot as it is a member of the household. We're going to see, yes, Berachot Hamazon is one of them. We're going to see what mitzvot they are. In general, it's mitzvot that are not time-bound. Positive mitzvot that are not time-bound, they're not obligated in doing. Sorry, they are obligated in doing. They are not obligated to do things that are time-bound because they have to work. We're going to see. We're going to see exactly what it is, but that's exactly it. They are obligated in mitzvot. Yes, question.
Because you have a certain amount of time limit to say it, the time condition.
Okay, very interesting. So you're already like. Okay, so Yosef's already jumping into the reason for the exemption, being that it's time-bound, and therefore you're saying, isn't Berachot Hamazon time-bound? So we didn't even get into a reason. We did not get into any reasons yet. We said 5 mitzvot, 2 of them women are not obligated in, 3 of them women are, right? And so the reason for it is the topic of the discussion of the Gemara, and part of that is going to be something that's time-bound. But you're asking, isn't Berachot Hamazon time-bound? We're going to see. The answer is clearly, it's not time-bound, even though there's a limit of after you eat bread of how long you can say Berachot Hamazon, but that's not a time limit. See, when I eat bread, I say Berachot Hamazon for as long as I feel full. If someone's not sure, okay, you could put a time limit to that, but it's not a time-bound mitzvah at all. If I eat Berachot Hamazon at 1 a.m., if I eat bread at 1 a.m., I have to say Berachot Hamazon. If I eat bread on Shabbat, I have to say Berachot Hamazon. If I eat bread at 3 in the afternoon, I have to say Berachot Hamazon. Whereas tefillin, if I wake up and it's Shabbat, I don't wear. If it's 3 a.m., I don't wear. Tefillin, there are certain times it applies, certain times it doesn't. Time-bound. Berachot Hamazon applies all the time. Obviously, when I eat. The same is true with the mezuzah. Is mezuzah time-bound? No. Now, what if someone doesn't own a house? Okay, he doesn't own a house, so he doesn't have to put on a mezuzah. That's not time-bound. If someone doesn't eat bread, he doesn't have to do Berachot Hamazon, but that's not time-bound. Okay, but let's wait for the Gemara to give us that reason. We didn't get into that reason yet. Any other questions? Yalla, let's go. Gemara. Amazing Gemara. Kiryat Shema. We just learned that Nashim, Avadim, Kitanim are Peturin Mikriyat Shema. The Gemara says, Pshita, talking about ladies, that's obvious. See, this is the Gemara is like coming from the same perspective as Yosef. I already know why. Whatever. I already know why a lady would not be obligated in mitzvah. There's a rule that's taught in Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin. The rule is as follows. A positive mitzvah. Okay, keep these details. If it's a positive mitzvah, that's called a mitzvat aseh. That is different from a negative mitzvah. That's called a mitzvat lo ta'aseh. What's the difference? A positive mitzvah is one must do something. A lo ta'aseh, mitzvah lo ta'aseh, negative mitzvah is one must refrain from doing something. Give me an example of a positive mitzvah. Put on tefillin, tzedakah, brit milah, you have to do it. Okay, what's an example of a mitzvah lo ta'aseh? Something I must refrain from doing. Not kosher. Cutting your lo takifu, cutting your peyot. You get haircuts on your mind or something. Sorry, Shabbat has elements of both.
Hametz.
What is it?
Hametz on Pesach.
Eating hametz on Pesach. Lo ta'acher. Okay, very good. Not to delay. Yeah, lo tilbash anez. Don't wear shalbez. Very good. Sorry. Avodah zara. Okay, guys, we could do 613. Relax. Okay, I asked for a few examples. You guys are giving me all of them. Yeah, they're only 365. Okay. Oi. It's not a Sefer mitzvot class over here. We're doing Gemara Masechet Berachot. Okay. So here we go. So we have mitzvot aseh, mitzvot lo ta'aseh. Now, in the mitzvot aseh category, positive mitzvot, if something is time bound, which means it depends on time, and it's from the Torah, women are not obligated in doing it. That's called a mitzvat aseh she'azman grama, that is caused by time. Give me examples of mitzvot aseh she'azman grama. Lulav, it only applies 1 week out of the year. Really, 1 day out of the year from the Torah. What else? Kiryat Shema, it's in the morning, in the evening. Sukkah, they are not obligated because it's mitzvah aseh she'azman grama. Correct. Women are not obligated because it's a time-bound mitzvah.
There's some people that still have the custom to do it.
Yeah. Okay, we're not going to go through every example now, but the woman is not obligated in Sukkah. Shofar, women from the Torah are not obligated in mitzvah shofar. Why? Because it's time-bound. Why is it time-bound? Because it's on a specific date of the year. Okay, Parshat Zachor, it's a discussion about whether women are obligated or not. They may not be time-bound. It might be just once a year. It also may not be a mitzvah from the Torah. It's my big machloket. Okay, very good. Yeah? Oh, very good. Okay, so very good. So now there are examples of positive mitzvot that women are obligated in doing. Okay. So Chanukah is an example. And then you're giving another example of mitzvot on Yom Kippur. There's other examples. Let me just give, because we did introduce this topic. So let me just give you a couple exceptions. One exception is, there are exceptions if a mitzvat aseh is linked to a mitzvat lo ta'aseh. Okay? We are going to see one in our Gemara tonight if we get up to it. At this pace, we're not going to see it tonight. But I'll give you an example that we're not going to see, so that you know, not to give you a spoiler. Are women obligated to eat matzah on the first night of Pesach? Is it a mitzvah aseh? It says ba'erev tochlu matzot. It's a positive commandment. Is it time bound? Yes, it applies to the 15th of Nisan. Positive time bound mitzvah to eat matzah. Our rule, mitzvah aseh she'azman grama. Do women have to do it? Based on our rule, we would say no. Women are exempt. However, women are obligated. Why? Because there's a mitzvah the pasuk says, "Don't eat chametz, eat matzah." So there's a connection. Whoever has to refrain from eating chametz is obligated to eat matzah. There's an example that when someone is in one group, they get extrapolated and they go into the second group. This is a specific example with matzah. There are more examples. For example, Yom Kippur. There are things that they're not allowed to do that's negative, so they get thrown into the positives also. We're going to see that the example also applies for Shabbat. There are certain things that they must do on Shabbat, even though they're positive, because they're included in the negative. So these are the exceptions of the rules. The other exception, again, just because tomorrow night is Chanukah, are women obligated in lighting the menorah? Okay, very good. So the answer is yes. Okay, women are obligated. However, for Sfaradim, we hold Ner Ishu Beito. You really only need one in the entire house. Ashkenazim, they have all of the children, they do their own. Us, if your kids want to do their own, they can do their own, but we're only obligated to do one. So the man of the house does it, but let's say there's no man of the house, or let's say the man of the house is not home. Is a woman obligated to? Yes. A woman is obligated to light the menorah. But isn't that a positive mitzvah that's time-bound? Let's see if anyone could tell me why.
It's not from the Torah.
Oh, very good. Sorry? Okay, very good. So I'll tell you, the answer that Elon gives gets thrown out, meaning like people will say this. The real answer is what David Delamani said. The real answer is it's not from the Torah. The mitzvot aseh from the Torah, not Torah shazman grama. If it's a Torah, positive, time-bound mitzvah, women are not obligated. But if it's rabbinic, then it depends on what the rabbis enacted. Are they obligated in time-bound rabbinic mitzvot? Well, it depends. The rabbis enacted it. When they enacted it, did they include ladies in their enactment or not? So for Chanukah, they did. Why? Because they're also part of the miracle. For Purim, it's not from the Torah, Kiryat Megillah. Are they obligated to do it? It's positive, time-bound, but it's rabbinic. And the rabbis included them. Why? Because they're also part of the miracle of being saved. What about the Arba Kosot on the night of Pesach? Do women have to have the 4 cups of wine? Yes. Why? Positive time-bound. Yeah, but it's rabbinic. And when the Chachamim made that, they included the ladies. So this whole rule is really by Torah, laws, and there are many exceptions. But we learn the rule. Mitzvat taseh min Torah she'azman grama nashim peturot. Women are peturot. Now that you know that rule, our Mishna comes and says nashim don't have to say Kriyat Shema. So what's your reaction? Obvious. Positive time bound from the Torah. Of course, ladies don't have to say it. That's what our Gemara is going to ask. It's only obvious if you know that. If you don't know that, it's not obvious. But this is how the Gemara is. The Gemara assumes you know certain things, which is why Gemara learning is so difficult. Because there's this entire concept that the Gemara just says, well, this is obvious. Okay, so let's go ahead and see it. Do you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Discussed earlier when we said the groom's exempt from saying Shema
Yeah.
his wedding day. We said even though he's exempt, he can still do it.
Yeah.
Same applies to the word exempt here. Women.
Okay, excellent question. So you're asking, is this exemption a prohibition or it's just an exemption? When you say a woman can't say Shema, or sorry, a woman does not have to say Shema. Oh, okay, was that my fault? No, it's right. It's fine. When you say a woman doesn't have to say Shema, does that mean she can't? Now, for that, it's one thing. But when you say a woman does not have to wear tefillin, what if she wants to wear tefillin? Can she? Okay, so that's like a more pertinent question. Good question. Good question. We'll put it on pause for now. But the answer is going to be that there are certain mitzvot that a woman can do voluntarily, and there are certain mitzvot that a woman should not do for some other reasons. So you know why this Gemara is so complicated? Is because we're going to talk about 5 different mitzvot, and there are so many more examples. All valid questions, but let's put that on pause for now. Let's go back to the Gemara.
Hey, Rabbi,
Yes, go ahead, Ronnie.
when are women obligated to do these mitzvot because they were like involved in like the mitzvah?
So only rabbinic things. That's what I was saying. The concept of women have to read Megillah because they were part of the miracle. Because part of the miracle is not the real answer. The real answer is because it's rabbinic and the rabbis said that the women are obligated to do it. Why did the rabbis include them in their enactment? Because they were part of the miracle. But it's really because it's a rabbinic mitzvah. And when it's a rabbinic mitzvah, you don't have this rule of their peturot, because the rabbis are adding it. It's an additional enactment. And when they make an enactment, they're deciding to include the ladies.
What about like on Sukkot, like Ashkenazi women, they like shake that lulav?
Okay, so that's not a rabbinic mitzvah. That's not a rabbinic. Shaking the lulav is from the Torah, from the rabbis. Especially for the first day, it's from the Torah. So this goes back to the question that Richard just asked of this list of mitzvot, that when it says women don't have to, are they allowed to, or and they just don't have to, or should they not? The lulav is the same question. Same question. Okay, I'm not going to go through every mitzvah right now. But it's a machloket. There's a big discussion about this. And then even if they do it, do they make a bracha or not? It's a whole big discussion. We can't go through every example of all ladies. Let's focus on the 5. I think 5 is enough. We're going to focus on the 5 that our Mishnah is going to go through, and we'll go through these 5. Okay? Let's go ahead and read the Gemara. Kiryat Shema. It's you saying women, avadim and ketanim are pturot pshita. Isn't that obvious? Mitzvah taseh she'azman gramahu. It is a time-bound positive mitzvah. V'chol mitzvat aseh she'azman grama, and any positive time-bound mitzvah, nashim keturot, women are exempt. Since Shema falls in this category, of course women don't have to recite Shema. Ma'hu detema. You would have thought, ho'il ve'itbe ba'malchut shamayim. you would have thought that Shema is going to be an exception to the rule. Why? Because it is so critical in that it is accepting the heavenly yoke of Hashem. Since it is accepting Hashem as our God, we might have thought that, yes, it's positive and time-bound, but this is a supreme mitzvah. It's a mitzvah of accepting God. So a woman should be obligated. Kamash malan, therefore, our Mishnah comes to say, hey, that's not correct. Women are paturot. It's even though it's very important. Shema Yisrael, by the way, Shema Yisrael is extremely important. There are people that have no affiliation, nothing to do with Judaism, but they'll even know the Shema Yisrael. There's so many stories like this of like children during the Holocaust that were given to the church, for example, to raise them, because otherwise they would have been butchered, they would have been killed. And then after many years, they go and they try to get these kids back. So how would they know? And they would just say Shema Yisrael, and the kids that recognize the Shema Yisrael from when they were from young kids. You know, so if you have a child, you say Shema Yisrael with your child from a very young age. It's accepting the heavenly yoke, so it's very critical. So our Mishnah is saying women don't have to say Shema. You would say, of course they don't. It's mitzvah that says Shema Grama. So you have to say, well, no, it's not that obvious because this is a very critical tefilah. It's a very critical mitzvah, rather. Okay, so therefore, our Mishnah came to tell us it follows the general rule. There's no exception. Women are paturot. Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, since Kriyat Shema is not time bound, are they obligated to say Kriyat Shema?
Let's focus on our Gemara right now. Again, this is like it's become a ladies' class. We have to. There's a lot. There's no end to it. Kriyat Shema Alamita. Okay, I'll address. You're saying, do women have to say Kriyat Shema Alamita or not? So is Kriyat Shema Alamita a mitzvah from the Torah or not? It depends. If you said Shema already, let's say you prayed Arvit after the time of Shema, what is the time of Shema in the evening, by the way? Tzedek Kochavim. In the Lashon of the Mishnah, what is it? The time that the Kohanim come to enter. That's our first Mishnah. So if you already said Shema Yisrael after Tzedek Kochavim, then Shema Alamita is not mitzvah from the Torah anymore. You did it already. But let's say someone didn't say Arvit. Or let's say someone said Arvit before Tzedek Kochavim, which you could have. You could have an early minyan. Then Kriyat Shema Alamita actually is the mitzvah that's saying Torah. Okay? Now, regardless of what it is, whether it's from the Torah or not, are women obligated in time-bound positive mitzvah? The answer is no. So are women obligated in saying Shema? No. Our Mishnah says they're not obligated. Very clearly, they're not obligated. Can they say it? Again, that's the same question that we keep going back to. We're not talking about can they. Right now, the question we're dealing with is must they say it? And the answer is must they say it? No, they don't have to say the mitzvah of Shema. Why? Why not? It's a time-bound positive mitzvah from the Torah. Very good. Clear? Okay, let's talk about kids for a second. The same Mishnah that says you don't have to say Shema, it says by ladies. Then it says for Avadim Kina'anim, non-Jewish servants, which elsewhere, just take it as a stipulation now, equates their obligations to the obligations of a lady. So it's going to be the same. So just as a lady doesn't have to say Shema, also a servant doesn't have to. Correct. Third case, well, no. The third case, but again, we could just leave it. The third case is a katan, is a minor. Now, what type of a katan are we talking about? It's a big machloket between Rashi and Tosfot. Okay? I want to show you this, the machloket between Rashi and Tosfot of what type of a katan are we talking about? And then we have to think through all of these cases according to both of them. It's important to see some Rashi and Tosfot. So I'm going to go to a commentary of Rashi. By the way, did you guys see I put out a video on the roles of Rashi and Tosfot on Gemara? Have you seen that? If you haven't, it's like a 9-minute video. And if you double speed it, it's only 4 minutes. And I just give a high level understanding of when you're studying Gemara, what Rashi's function is and what Tosfot's function is, and who Tosfot really is. I think it's nice. I think you'll enjoy it. So let's just see what Rashi says about Ketanim. Ketanim, the young minors that are not obligated to recite Shema, afilu katan shehigia lechinuch. Even if it's a katan that reached the age of education of being trained. What this means is there's two types of kids, or two general groups of a child. There's a baby, a 1-year-old. Is a 1-year-old obligated to say Shema? Obviously not. But then there's another one, a 10-year-old, which the 10-year-old knows how to read, very smart, can outsmart you. And you have a 10-year-old, Josh, no? Yeah, so who's smarter, you or your 10-year-old? What?
Probably her.
Probably her, yeah. I don't even know her, but this is they're very smart. They know how to. So does she understand the concept of reading Shema, or does he, if it's a boy, understand the yeah, they know how to read at that age. They're very intelligent. So is that child the same category as a 1-year-old? So Rashi says yes. They're both exempt. 10-year-old, 1-year-old, they're all exempt from Shema. Why? Even a child that has reached the age of being educated, Chachamim did not obligate the child to say Shema, because if you would obligate the child to say Shema, you're really obligating the father to get the child to say Shema. But the dad isn't always next to the child at the time of Kriyat Shema. So what if you require, if Chachamim say, hey, this child that's 10 years old, that's at an age of being able to read, this child is going to have to say Shema, that's really going to mean the father has to be the one next to the child, but the father isn't always there at that time. Maybe the father is going to Bet Knesset. So now every morning the father goes to Bet Knesset, you have to come home, say Shema with your child, and then go back. It's not practical. So Rashi says that this is applying to a child that has already reached the age of chinuch, which means an age that the child could be educated, still exempt from Shema. Why? Because it would become inconvenient for the father. Tosfot completely disagrees. Let me show you what Tosfot says. Tosfot. Perush HaKuntris, he's quoting Rashi, Katan shehigia lechinuch. This is talking about a child that reached the age of education. Velo nehira. Tosfot says that does not seem correct. I disagree. He disagrees. And he goes through and he gives his proofs, and you could see he brings a proof from another Gemara, and therefore he says it's not the case. Upirash Rabbeinu Tam, and therefore Rabbeinu Tam says the vadai Iri hakol bekatan shelo higia lechinuch. We're talking about a very young child that you can't educate yet. A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, maybe a 5-year-old. But once the child gets to a stage where you could educate them, 6 years old, 7 years old, and they know how to read, the chayavin, they would be obligated to say Shema. Okay, and then he goes into this whole discussion. But the main point is that when our Mishnah says that a katan, a minor, is not obligated to say Shema, what type of a minor are we talking about? According to Rashi, any minor. When I say minor, it means other bar mitzvah. According to Tosfot, what minor are we talking about? Before the age of education. Correct. But in an extreme case, Tosfot would agree, Rabbeinu Tam would agree that a 1-year-old is not chayav. That's what our Mishnah is talking about. An 11-year-old probably is chayav. What is it?
You just like push them to station if they're like not really capable of
Okay, you're saying should. Right, we're not talking about whether you should or not. We're talking about whether one is obligated to or not. Chayav or patur. Can they? Different story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about obligations here. Okay, should you say Shema with your 1-year-old? Yes. Should you teach your 2-year-old as soon as they start talking to say it? Yes. Are you obligated to? That's the topic of our discussion. Our Mishnah says no. And Tosfot says that, but that's only before the age of education. Once the child knows how to read, then why should they not say Shema? Why should they at this point stop? Okay, so yeah, you have to teach them.
Okay, then. What's the percentage?
If the obligation,
There's an obligation for the kid, they don't have an obligation, fine, that's.
they're not obligated.
That's Mishna is 100% they don't have an obligation, but does the father have the obligation to then teach his kid for sure, no?
So no. If it's saying they're patura, this is what exactly what Rashi's saying. Rashi's saying is I'm talking about even your 12-year-old boy. he's not obligated. Why is he not obligated?
Wouldn't the father be obligated though still?
That's what exactly what Rashi's saying is that the boy is not obligated because obligating the child would be inconvenient for the father.
Yeah, but there's lots of mitzvot that are inconvenient. There's still mitzvah, but you know enough. Inconvenient for the keep kosher, there's a lot of inconvenience.
Yes. Okay, but you gave me an example of a lot aseh. You have to stay focused with the aseh. And yes, you're right. Once the kid reaches bar mitzvah, though, once the kid reaches age 13, then the father is obligated. It's inconvenient, it doesn't matter. You have to make sure that he says it because the child at this point is now an adult. But before that age, it's still a child. So Rashi says he's not obligated. But Tosfot says he is obligated even before the age of bar mitzvah. Why? Because he's able to. It's inconvenient. So what is inconvenient? Who's patur when our Mishna says patur is talking about, according to Tosfot? Before the age of chinuch. But once he reaches the age of chinuch, so what you're saying is like Tosfot. This is exactly what Tosfot's problem with Rashi is. What do you mean? You're telling me a 12-year-old does not have to say Shema? Of course he has to. The father has to teach it to him, right? Because he can. Before the age of chinuch is when they're not obligated. Yeah? Question? Correct. Yeah, now it's out of the father's world. Yeah.
My father, later rabbi, cannot go against the earlier rabbi.
Okay. Oh, okay. So no, that is correct. Okay, did you watch the video or no?
I did, but
Okay, so you're correct that Tosfot comes. Rabbeinu Tam is actually Rashi's grandchild. Okay, Rabbeinu Tam is arguing with Rashi. Rabbeinu Tam absolutely is allowed to argue with Rashi, and he does all the time. When you say that a rabbi is not allowed to argue with an earlier rabbi, that is when there are certain eras. Okay, so for example, there's an era of Tanaim, the rabbis of the time of the Mishnah. That is from the years 0 to 200. Okay, after the time of the Tanaim, and you have the Mishnah has been codified, then you enter the time of the Gemara. These rabbis called the Amoraim. The rabbis of the Gemara cannot argue against the Mishnah. Okay, but they can argue with each other even if one is earlier than them. Okay, then you have the time of the Rishonim, the medieval commentaries, Rashi being one, Rabbeinu Tam being the other. They can argue against each other, but they're not going to argue against the Gemara, right? And then after that, you're going to have the Achronim, and they'll argue against each other, even if one comes earlier than the other. But they're not going to argue against the previous generations, although some of them even do. Like the Vilna Gaon was an Achron, will argue with Rishonim also. But in general, the Gemara says the opposite. The Gemara says that when you're within a certain band, the later opinion, not only is the later opinion allowed to argue with the early one, but there's a concept called Halacha kebatra'ah, which means the rule is actually going to follow the later opinion, the one that's later. Why? Logically, why would it make sense that if there's an argument between a rabbi and another rabbi 100 years later, what is it? More with the times? Okay.
More like Torah opinions to rely on.
Why experience? He could be younger than him. Saying if someone who's 18 years old is arguing with a rabbi 100 years ago.
opinions and all the.
Okay, very good. The idea is like this. A later rabbi saw the opinion of the earlier rabbi and discussed it and analyzed it and concluded to argue with it. So since that later opinion had that first opinion, reviewed it, discussed it, was part of the discussions, and still said, no, this is not correct, then you could say halacha kebatra'ah. So this is like one of the ideas. So there absolutely is disagreement with previous rabbis. That's like one topic, but there's even more with Sanhedrin. But okay, we'll stop with that answer. I hope that answers the question. Yeah? Okay, good. Shall we continue? Ilan, sorry, you hit your limit. You know, like when you try to get into the iPhone too many times and it's exceeded, you need to give me a 4-minute break. What's your question, Ilan? Obajun, there's 5 mitzvot in our Mishnah. I'm trying to get through the first one. You're asking me about the 5th one. The order is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna get it. Is that there's a whole section of Abraham Amazon of our Gemara. We'll probably get up to it in 3 weeks from now. Let's see there. No, but you're asking a good question. So your question is, How does Berachot Hamazon fit into this? Okay, it's going to be the question of the Gemara. Okay, let's go. Here we go. First one. Shema, we said women are not obligated, and women are not obligated, avadim are not obligated because the mitzvah says shazman grama. Isn't that obvious? Yes, it's obvious, but you might have thought that since it's so critical, since it's kabbalat umachot shamayim, accepting God, that women would be obligated in it, and we say no, women are not obligated. Okay, children, this is what Rashi tells us. The reason they're not obligated to do it is because it's time bound and it's going to be difficult for the father to be there to help him to say it. That's what Rashi says. And Tosfot says the reason why he doesn't have to say it is because he's a kid. He has no concept of any requirement, so he's going to be patur. That's the first one. Mina tefillin. Now we're going to talk about the next mitzvah, mitzvah number 2, tefillin. Pshita, isn't it obvious? Why is it obvious that women are paturot from tefillin? It's time bound. Why is tefillin time bound? It only applies during the day. It does not apply at night. Or it does not apply on Shabbat. Very good. Does not apply on Yom Tov. So it's time bound. Positive. Mitzvah from the Torah. It's time bound. Obviously, women are not obligated. So why does our Gemara, why does our Mishnah feel the need to list it explicitly? The Gemara says, Ma'u the tema, you would have thought, Ho'il ve'it kish le mezuzah. Because in the Shema Yisrael, it says, Ukshatam neot al-yadecha. And you should write your mezuzot. So since the tefillin is taught right next to mezuzah, you might have thought that there's a reason. Why do you teach tefillin and right afterwards teach mezuzah? Because whoever's obligated in mezuzah is going to be obligated in tefillin. Maybe you could have said that. So that's why our Mishnah had to come and say that it's not how it works. Tefillin, they're p'turot. Since it's juxtaposed to mezuzah, they would be obligated. Kamash malan, that's not correct. You follow the general rule of it's a positive time on mitzvah, nashim p'turot. What about children? Why are children, let's say a 12-year-old boy or a 9-year-old boy, is not obligated in wearing tefillin? Why? Correct. Okay, but the exemption of time bound is not for children. It's for women. What's the issue with a child wearing tefillin? Okay. Sorry? The burden of the father is similar to what Rashi is saying. Hard is to get his hands to tefillin. Okay. Oh, okay, Ilan, what are you saying? You have to keep your body clean? Okay, very good. I think you all like the answer that Rashi tells us. Rashi tells us, I'm just going to say this in a comical way, that little kids are farting all the time. Straight up, they can't control their farting. Okay? I'm just having fun with you guys. But I'm going to show you, it's exactly what Rashi says. Look at this commentary of Rashi. Dichtiv, actually, no, Rashi never said it. Sorry, I made that up. Hold on. I didn't make it up. Which, it's in the notes?
Yeah, I'm passing gas.
Okay.
From Rashi.
Yeah.
Where's the Rashi?
Maybe it's on the Mishna. Maybe it's on the Mishna.
Yeah. I'm looking for it. I'm not. Where's that?
I'm reading on the top of
It's in joke number one.
the very top, the first Rashi at the top of the.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. I mean, that's tefillin. So how come they just don't have it?
They didn't want to input that.
Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. I was skipping over it. Okay, look at the screen. It's there. Rashi, and if you're looking like Jaden just did, it's the first Rashi, which is in the inside border. Umina tefillin. Mishum the stam katan, because generally a child eno yodea lishmor gufo, cannot control his body. Shelo yafiach behen, so that he does not pass gas when he's wearing them. And it's disrespectful. When someone is wearing the tefillin, they should not be passing gas. What happens if you have to pass gas and you're wearing your tefillin? What should you do? Take your tefillin off. Take it, move it to the side, and then, or take it off, go to the bathroom, take care of yourself, and then come back and wear your tefillin. Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right, got it. Next time, Rama. I was gonna walk up to the guy in Canada. He says that you're not obligated in tefillin. Just do the way you are. Yeah, yeah.
For someone like, there's like that issue that people can't control their.
Very good. If someone is having bowel issues and they cannot control their bowels, they should put on their tefillin and then take it off. They're not obligated. You are not obligated in wearing tefillin. I mean, you have to wear it, but you have to go to the bathroom. If you have to go to the bathroom, let's say you have to go to the bathroom very badly, but your tefillin is on. You say, I just need to hold it in for 20 minutes. No, there's no holding it in for 20 minutes. First of all, you're going to be disturbing Rama and everyone around you. You're going to be disturbing them. But beside that, it is disrespectful to be passing gas while one is wearing tefillin. So here, what we're saying now is that women and children are not obligated in tefillin. Women are not obligated because it's in the says Shazman Grama. Children are not obligated because even the ones that have reached the age of chinuch, even the 12-year-olds, even the 11-year-olds, they're not able to control it as much. I'll never forget, I was doing a bar mitzvah lessons with a kid, and the kid's dad was there. Kid was young, 7, 8 years old. As we're learning Tamim, the kid's just like ripping him. Just like farting all night. But I'm like very professional here, and the dad's watching. And I just ignore it as though nothing happened. And just like keep going. Yeah, exactly. You guys, the Tamim's coming out of the wrong end. Okay. All right, very good. Let's keep going.
Rabbi,
Who's that? Yeah, Ronnie, go ahead.
with all due respect, I've been to 54 many times. I think the older generation can outgoose the younger generation.
Okay. Yeah, he's saying how there could be someone that is older that also cannot control themselves. And yeah, that's also true. If someone cannot control their bowels, they should not have we don't wear tefillin all day long. They used to wear tefillin all day long. We don't. Why? Because you think about different things and we're not able to control ourselves. But you see, there's a level of kiddusha, a treatment that some person has to have with his tefillin. If your stomach is hurting and you cannot control yourself, so take your tefillin off. Okay, you're not obligated in tefillin. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so we got 2 mitzvot out of the way. Now we're going to talk about the ones that they are obligated to say. The chayavin b'tefilah. Women are obligated in reciting tefilah. They are exempt for Shema, but they are obligated in tefilah. Okay, let's see why. Gemara answers, derachameninhu, because they are obligated in tefilah because it is mercy. It is requesting mercy of God. Rachameninu means is that you are asking and making requests of God. So what does this mean? This means there's a mitzvah to put on tefillin, time-bound positive. There's a mitzvah to recite Shema, time-bound positive. Even if there's a mitzvah for tefilah, but more than that, you need to beg as part of your tefilah. You need to make requests. Do women have requests to make of God? Yes. They have requests just as much as men have requests. So how can you say they don't have to? They have to ask. They have things in their lives that they need. They have to ask for it also. Okay? Now, let's look at Rashi here. We're doing a lot of Rashis here, and then I'm going to tell you the Rambam. Let's look at what the Rashi says. Correct. This is referring to the Amidah, and I'm going to get to it. Where is it? Rashi.
Prayer, just asking your request. Can it be? I mean, nowadays we have Amidah, but it could really just say, Hashem, please give me like.
Yeah. Very good. So Rashi says, in this case, it doesn't say pshita. Velo garas pshita. The Gemara and the previous one said it's obvious. Mizvot says shazman grama, but this one it doesn't say it's obvious. The Rashi is explaining to us velo garas pshita, and it does not say the word pshita. It's obvious. The halav d'oraitahi, because it's not from the Torah. Tefilah, according to Rashi, is rabbinic. The obligation to recite tefilah is rabbinic, and therefore it does not fall under the exemption of mitzvot shazman grama, because it's not from the Torah. It's from the rabbis, and that's why Rashi is telling us. The reason the Gemara doesn't say it's obvious and say, hey, what do you mean it's obvious? You don't need to tell me this. The Gemara is saying, why? You're telling me they have to. Why? They're obligated to do it. Yeah, sorry. So Rashi did actually the way I'm describing it is not correct.
The first two were.
The first two, they're not obligated. This one, he is obligated.
Maybe that's why I didn't say it's obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. But what Rashi says here is that tefilah is rabbinic. And tefilah, being rabbinic, falls under the rabbinic enactment. And since it's the rabbinic enactment, they could say that ladies have to say tefilah. Right? And why? Because it's making requests. Now, let me just finish this next line of the Gemara, and I want to share with you the Rambam, famous Rambam. You would have thought. It says in Tehillim, David HaMelech refers to tefilah as erev avoker v'sahoraim, evening, morning, afternoon, 3 times a day. You could say it's like a positive time-bound mitzvah. Kamash malan, that's not the case. It's not the case. This does not fall under the exemption of positive time-bound mitzvah because it's rachamim ninhu. Now let me explain to you what the Rambam says. The Rambam is of the opinion that tefilah is from the Torah. Rashi just explicitly told us that tefilah, the mitzvah of prayer, is rabbinic. It's not from the Torah, it's from the rabbis. It's a rabbinic enactment. The Ramban agrees with Rashi. So you have this question of, is the mitzvah of tefilah the mitzvah from the Torah or mitzvah from the rabbis? According to the Rambam, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. According to Rashi, it's mitzvah for the rabbis. Okay, I'll tell you. If it's a mitzvah from the rabbis, then women can be obligated in saying it. Because as we said, the rabbis are the one enacting it, women are also obligated. If it's a mitzvah from the Torah, you have an issue. What's the issue? Mitzvah taseh she'azman grama nashim pturot. So now you have a problem according to the Rambam. According to the Harambam, who says tefilah is a mitzvah from the Torah, and it's positive, it's time-bound, why are women obligated? Okay, here's the answer. Because according to what the Rambam tells us, the mitzvah of tefilah is from the Torah once a day. Once a day. And at what time? Any time. Does not specify. Once a day, everyone has an obligation to pray. And because it's once a day, it's not time-bound. It doesn't have to be at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or it doesn't only apply on certain days of the week. Every day, once a day, a person has to pray. Whenever you want, according from the Torah. So since it's a positive mitzvah that's not time-bound, women are obligated. There's so many implications from this. Okay, first Elon's question. What is the source? Does anyone know the source? Who learned Masechet Ta'anit with me? Okay, I'm going to take you back. Take you way back. Masechet Ta'anit. Oh, you also? Yeah, why are you pretending like it's not you? You're saying, no, it's you also.
You learned it before.
Yeah. That's it. Mr. Zabulani had the audacity to, in the chat, say, tonight I'm going to come, but I'm irrelevant and it doesn't matter. So don't count my vote. But then he comes here and he's quoting Gemara from Masechet Ta'anit, the exact pasuk. It's unbelievable. And then he says that Mr. Zabulani, what do we have to do to get you to come more often? This is what I need to know. Okay, so it's a Gemara Masechet Ta'anit, Daf Bet Amud Aleph, that says, Ul'ovdo b'chol levavchem. It's the beginning of Behayim Shamoa Tishmeu. Ul'ovdo b'chol levavchem. You need to serve God with your entire heart. Ul'ovdo, and to serve God b'chol levavchem, with your entire heart. The Gemara asks, Ezo hi avodah shebalev. How does one serve God with his heart? Zohi tefilah. That is through the mitzvah of tefilah. According to the Rambam, this is one of the 613 mitzvot to recite tefilah once a day. And since it's once a day and there's no time bound, women are obligated. Now, according to the Ramban, there is no obligation to recite to pray tefilah from the Torah. It's rabbinic, and therefore women are obligated. Okay? Even if they're obligated, they are not bound by the zmanim. So like a lady doesn't have to do, I have to do arvit at a certain time, or I have to do shara. It's whenever the lady wants to pray, whatever time it is at that time, should pray that one. So once a day, so it could be shacharit. If it's a time of shacharit, shacharit. If it's a time of mincha, don't pray shacharit now. Pray mincha. If it's a time of arvit, don't pray shacharit now. Pray arvit. Whatever time we're praying, we're praying. But this is what the Rambam tells us, is that the breakdown of arvit, shacharit, mincha, that's rabbinic. but once a day is from the Torah. Now, just one idea I want to share. According to the Ramban and Rashi, let's say tefilah is not from a mitzvah from the Torah. How can something that's so central to our lives, tefilah is so central to our lives, we spend hours a day doing it, how can you tell me there's no such obligation? So the mitzvah of Shema is to accept God, to recite and to say, God is my God. But the relationship, the tefilah of talking to God, we see Abraham Avinu did it, Yitzchak Avinu did it, Yaakov Avinu did it, so many people did it, Chana did it, Eliyahu did it, and now he's saying, no, you don't actually have to do it. So one idea that I read is that the mitzvah of tefilah is a relationship thing. It's a relationship thing with Ribbono Shel Olam, and you cannot command a relationship. It's not something that you could say. Sorry? Yeah, you could command ve'ahavta, not ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta means you loved, and then you cannot command that because that's a past tense verb. Ve'ahavta, you should love, you could command it. Okay, but how does one do that? So there's a discussion of how does one love. The way some say is that through the study of Torah. Others say it's through understanding God by observing nature. This is what the Rambam says. The mitzvah ve'ahavta Hashem l'kecha, to love God. That means look at the creations of the world and contemplate and think about them, come to appreciate them, and then come to appreciate its creator, God. But ahavta doesn't mean love God like this. It means go do something active. So okay, but this is one of the ideas. But anyway, according to the Rambam, it is a mitzvah from the Torah. According to the Ramban and Rashi, it's a rabbinic mitzvah. Okay. Let's keep going. Mezuzah. Women are obligated in the mitzvah of mezuzah. Pshita, says Rama, is obvious. It's not time bound. Of course they're obligated. Why wouldn't they be? So here's why you would think that they're not obligated. Mahu the tema, you would have thought, Ho'il v'itkish the Talmud Torah. Mezuzah is in the second chapter of Shema. It connects mezuzah Talmud Torah. It says you have to teach Torah and put on your mezuzot. So in the second paragraph of Shema, the teaching, which the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin will tell us, the mitzvah of limud Torah and Talmud Torah does not apply to women. Women are not obligated in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. They're obligated to learn the halachot of mitzvah that they have to do, but they're not obligated in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah the way men are. It's different obligations. So since there's a juxtaposition between the mitzvah of Talmud Torah and the mitzvah of mezuzah, and we know the mitzvah of Talmud Torah women are not obligated in, then you might have thought the mitzvah of mezuzah also women are not obligated. Kamash malan, women are obligated in the mitzvah of mezuzah. Same with tefillin. Tefillin, they are not obligated in, and it's included in the list telling us they're not obligated because you might have thought that being connected to mezuzah would get them in. Mezuzah there is the VIP getting tefillin inside the door and obligating you. Here, mezuzah is in there, but you might have thought that the mezuzah is friends with Talmud Torah that is getting you out. And it's saying, no, the mezuzah is in the door. Yes, question.
Mishna, establishes that you're obligated in mezuzah. Like that's the basis for the entire sentence, is that women are obligated when they have mezuzah. And then they're gonna say, oh, you might be confused and think you can't do mezuzah, but you said right before that the reason I'm saying this is because
Yeah, okay. So I think that's similar to what Elon is asking. Like you said, tefillin, isn't that tefillin obvious that they're not obligated? It's a positive time bound. And you say, no, because tefillin is next to mezuzah. Okay? Which means you have to do mezuzah. And now you come and you say, you have to do mezuzah. Isn't that obvious? No, because it's next to Talmud Torah. So the way the commentators explain is that there are two sources of mezuzah. First paragraph of Shema, second paragraph of Shema. In the first paragraph of Shema, what comes first? Tefillin, ukshartam leota edecha, uchtavtam al mezuzah betecha. It says ukshartam and uchtavtam. Ukshartam means tefillin, uchtavtam means mezuzah. So there's this connection there. And there's another one in Vehaya, that says v'limatem otam, learn Torah, teach Torah, uchtavtam. Okay, both times one is before the mezuzah gets second place, but in this case you're thinking you would have to go this direction, and in this case you would think you would have to go in that direction. It's coming to tell you both of them are incorrect. Don't equate mezuzah to tefillin that's before it. Don't equate mezuzah to Talmud Torah that's before it. So there's two things here. Now you might say, well, once you did this, don't I already know that? Yeah, but these are two distinct psukim. You could have, if one of these would have been true, then it would have thrown the other thing for a loop. Correct. But this is two distinct learnings from two separate psukim of the Torah. Okay, where are we up to? Berachot Hamazon. Ooh, Elon wanted to know about Berachot Hamazon. Elon wanted to jump to the spoiler alert. Okay, so let's jump to Berachot Hamazon. Oh, there's a lot to discuss. I don't know if we could do it in 15 minutes. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on, guys. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it? Anyone have to say Berachot Hamazon right now? Okay. Berachot Hamazon, we said in our Mishnah that women are obligated to. Avadim are obligated to. Tanim are obligated to. Now, isn't it obvious women should be obligated in doing it? Why would you think not? Is it a mitzvah that says Zman Grama? Yosef was asking before, is it Zman Grama? And we said it's not time bound. Even if when someone eats, it only applies for while the person is stuffed, but that's not necessarily something that depends on the clock. It's whenever the person eats. Okay? So, Berachot Hamazon Pshita, isn't it obvious? Ma'odatema, you might have thought. Ho'il, it's uchtiv. Since the Torah, when it's talking about, I believe this is talking about the man. It's talking about, it's in Sefer Shemot. It's talking about the Jewish people were eating. And it says, Betet Adonai lachem ba'erev, basar le'echol. God is giving you, in the evening, ba'erev, he's giving you meat to eat. They would eat birds. They would have birds in the desert, quail. Belechem ba'boker lispoa. And then they would eat bread or man in the morning. Okay? But what the Torah tells us here is that they ate twice a day. Once in the evening, once in the morning. In the evening, they would have meat. In the morning, they would have bread. It sounds like Erev, like when you say in the evening, you say Shema, and in the morning, you say Shema. So in the evening, you eat. In the morning, you eat. You might have thought that, yeah, it's not time bound, but Belachare, there are times where people eat. They eat once in the morning, once in the evening. By the way, nowadays there's like this concept of there's 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In the times of the Mishnah, very clearly there's 2 meals a day. There's one in the morning, one in the evening, and there's many examples of this. One example of this is, according to one opinion, during Sukkot, a person is obligated. The Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer, I believe, says that a person has to eat 14 meals in the Sukkah. Why 14? 7 days, 2 meals a day. You see, this is an example. There's something very special about Shabbat. What's special about Shabbat? You have a Seudah Shlishit, something different. We're going to give you a third one, but otherwise you're having 2. We have Seudah Shlishit every single day. I have a couple of friends that have Seudah Revi'it every single day. But they would have 2 meals. Every day was normal to have 2 meals. Shabbat was special. You would throw in a third. But in the times of the Mishnah, it's very clear they would have 2 a day. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. So you might have thought that you say Berachot Hamazon once in the morning, once in the evening. It's positive and time bound. The Gemara is then telling us, don't think that the culture, the fact that we eat it twice a day, means that there's a requirement to eat it at twice a day. So it's not time bound. Okay? You might have thought, can we say that it's like a positive time bound? It's not. Okay? Now, there's 2 other details that Tosfot tells us about the Berachot Hamazon. When we say Berachot Hamazon, you say Ve'achata v'savata uve'rachta et Hashem Elokecha ala haaretz hatova asher natan lach. Ala haaretz hatova means for the land. And what Tosfot tells us is that the reason you might have thought that women are not obligated. So right now, the Gemara is giving us one reason why you might have thought women are not obligated in Berachot Hamazon. You might have thought they're not obligated in Berachot Hamazon because maybe it's positive time bound. Even though it's not really positive time bound, you might have thought that it is. It's saying, no, that's not the case. Tosfot gives us another reason. Tosfot says, you have to thank God when you eat for the land. But women did not inherit the land unless they had no brothers, like Slofchad's 5 daughters. But if there was a brother, the brother would inherit the land, woman would not. they would get it through their husband. They would marry and they would inherit through their husband. But women were not getting the land. So you have to thank God for food that you're getting from the land, but they wouldn't own land proper by themselves. So then you would say maybe they don't have to say Berachot Hamazon, but they do. There's one more thing that in the Berachot Hamazon, in the chapter of Nodeh Lecha, we say Val Britecha Shechatamta Bivsarenu. Do you know what that means? You're thanking God for the brit that is been that's on our flesh. It's talking about the Brit Milah. So women don't have a Brit Milah. So that's another reason why Tosot says like, well, you're gonna require a woman to say Berachot Hamazon. In the Berachot Hamazon it says, and on the brit that I have on my body. They don't have the brit on their body.
Plural, so it's a plural of us Jews.
Correct. So Tosot saying this might be a reason why you might have thought. If you would have asked the lady, does this apply to me? This clearly does not apply to me. I don't have to be saying this. No, you do. You are obligated. Well, okay, so she does not have to skip that part. She could say it because, like what Jaden is saying, is it's general. It's on her son is going to have this. It's like part of her, our flesh. It's part of Am Yisrael, and she's part of Am Yisrael. She doesn't have the brit on her flesh, but she's part of Am Yisrael. Okay. Yeah, there is. Don't get me started on that. I have a whole big thing about that. They have cards here, I think. A short woman version of Grace for Ladies. I know it's in the look. Okay, you know what? I said don't get me started, but you didn't care. Look, there's a short version of Berachot Hamazon that in the Siddur it says Berachot Hamazon for the ladies. There has been a huge culture shift from the times of the Talmud to now for ladies. Ladies, historically, were not being educated. They weren't going to schools the way men were. Men were the educated ones, women were not. But nowadays, women are educated. Women are very much educated and more educated than men. Does a girl know how to read better than a boy knows how to read? When you're in a school, I'm involved with a school. We're not teaching the boys to read any different than we're teaching the girls. They both know how to read. Some of the girls are stronger readers than boys are. So why would a girl have to read a shortened version of something when a boy has to read the whole thing? Berachot Hamazon, we're learning in our Mishnah that women are obligated to say Berachot Hamazon. So why give them a shorter version? Now, you're going to see in our discussion how it might be that they're only obligated rabbinically, so maybe they're not obligated the same way. And if they're not obligated the same way, and it's difficult for them. But the issue I have with this, for someone that doesn't know how to read Hebrew, having a card or having in the Siddur, it's in the Siddur, yeah. This is from the Sion's family, and they're doing it really, the Zakot Tarabim, to get people to do Berachot Hamazon, to make it easier for them to do Berachot Hamazon. And he actually was very much in touch with me, and we spoke about it, and it's really an amazing project. And in his Zechut, and in the family Zechut, many families are going to be saying Berachot Hamazon. Many people who weren't saying it will say it. The issue I have with that is if someone that goes to yeshiva, or someone that knows how to read Hebrew, says, I don't want to spend 2 minutes saying Berachot Hamazon, I only want to spend 10 seconds saying Berachot Hamazon. So I'm going to say the shortened version. You know how to read. That from someone who's educated. A girl nowadays, in my opinion, should not have a shortened version of anything. Why? She knows how to read as much as the guy knows how to read. There's no difference. There's no difference in education between a boy and a girl reading Hebrew. Okay, so that is, you know what, Rama? So what you're saying is they have an excuse that it's a time-bound mitzvah. The problem is, Rama, I would accept that answer if I didn't learn 4 seconds ago that the Gemara says that you might have thought that Berachot Hamazon is a time-bound mitzvah. It's not. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Like now we're really getting into the depth of, we didn't speak about the why. We said women are not obligated in positive time-bound mitzvot. We didn't get into the why. Rama's offering one of the reasons to why. It's because a woman she's busy. She's juggling 15 things. You ever see these pictures of like a graphic of a lady a mom that has like 15 arms? She has to be able to do this and do that and do this and then be on the phone over here and take care of the child baby over here and cleaning with this and taking care of this and that and then calming them and then the whole time having to take care of everyone's emotions. The woman is a malach from Shemayim, right? So now she has to say Birkat Hamazon, like, okay, let her say in the shortened version. This is what Rama is saying. Rama is defending them. Okay, very good. If it's a matter of that, very busy, that's one thing. But I just don't like the shortcut. Because in terms of literacy, in the times of the Gemara, women and men's literacy was not the same. Nowadays, women and men's literacy is the same. There is no difference in the education system today with how a boy reads Hebrew and a girl reads Hebrew. So that's my only issue with saying there's a girl's version of Birkat Hamazon and the ladies' version of Birkat Hamazon is much shorter. You don't need that. What happened? What happened? No, but I'm not talking right now. I'm not like reading it.
They say that we did that we closer image to God and women.
Okay.
They have less obligation because they don't need to do it.
Okay.
Is that a fact?
I don't know. You said some girls say that. Tell the girl to come here. We'll have the debate. I don't know. No. Okay. So yes, I have, and I actually don't. Okay. Okay. So why? This is a good question. It's a good question. Why? All right. Okay. So you have this question of why don't women have to do as many mitzvot as men do? So we've already given one explanation. One explanation being that it's a positive time-bound mitzvah. Positive time-bound mitzvah, women are not obligated to. Why? Rama said answer number one could be because she's busy with certain things and that the Torah did not require her to do that. There's another very famous explanation is that women are closer to God in certain ways, and they don't need as many mitzvot as men need to get closer to Hashem. A man who's not as close to Hashem needs to do 613 mitzvot. A woman is already by default, she has a head start. Since she has a head start, she doesn't need as many mitzvot. She doesn't have to pray. She doesn't have to do the mitzvah of tefilah the way a man does because the man needs it. The woman doesn't need it, right? So this is an idea also that women are closer. What I've noticed is, you know what? All right, whatever. Like when it's very tricky though. When you say this to a boy, you really could crush the kid. Okay, so at the school, especially last year, there was a lot of boys and very few girls. So on one hand, we want to support the girls and make them feel special because there was fewer girls than our boys. So like you would tell them this. You would tell them, you know, you're closer and you're better. But then I see a bunch of boys that are sad. And like they end up being like deflated that they're saying like we're not close to Hashem. And the point is not to put a boy down. And this is why I don't like saying like, oh, you're closer just because of this or you're closer. I think about it more of like a system. There's a system to halacha. Halacha has a system. Ladies are obligated, men are not obligated. Men are obligated, ladies are not obligated. It's a system. This, that. Why? Don't get into the why. But is there a why? I'm sure there's a why. But if you don't articulate the why the right way, or you don't consider things, you could end up hurting. This is my concern. My concern is if I say this answer is 100% correct, why don't women need to do as many mitzvot as men? Because women are closer. So what if that ends up turning a boy behind? And he might say like, okay, you know, we're in the 21st century. Okay, but you know that you don't know by making a comment like this how you could really be turning someone off. And that's why, like, yes, if you want to say this just to girls, so say this just to girls, but don't tell a boy that he can't be close to Hashem or that he can't be as close to Hashem. He can, right? So I don't like turning them off. All right, let's see. Birkat Hamazon. All right, I will give you a preview of what's coming next. What we are going to discuss next is the ladies' obligation of reciting Kiddush on Friday nights, and potentially also Havdalah on Motzei Shabbat. Are they obligated? So why yes? Is it a positive mitzvah? Is it time-bound? Yeah, so the rule would be that they're exempt. But it's very good. But they are obligated, and the next discussion is going to be why. And then we're going to speak about certain things about Birkat Hamazon as well. So we're not, I was hoping we're going to conclude this, but I think we covered a lot of key, important Shas topics. The truth is this daf you really, really, really could spend a lot of time talking about this, because as you guys are teasing it out, there's a lot of other questions. Like Ronnie asked a question about lulav, or you asked the question of whether you should, or who asked about what you asked. You asked about, like, are ladies allowed to or not? And there's a lot of other discussions about if they do a mitzvah that they're not obligated to, should they say the bracha or not? There's so much discussion on this. But okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week. Next week we have to conclude with the topic of finishing off Kiddush Friday night, also including Havdalah, and then we're going to conclude it with a small story about Berachot Hamazon, and then we'll move on. Yes, we're going to speak about minors and Berachot Hamazon as well. But one thing, just to like conclude with that topic of minors, minors, as Jaden alluded to, it's a big machloket, but the obligation cannot really fall on the minor, because the Torah is not requiring a minor to do something. When a minor is required to do something, especially when they reach the age of chinuch, it's really for the father. It's a machloket, but it could be that the obligation is on the father for the child. Okay, the father is obligated. I think what's critical here is that when a person makes a decision to have children, part of the decision that comes is that the chinuch and the education and preparing them to do mitzvot, and it ends up being an additional obligation for the parent to make sure that the person is going to learn. When a child is able to do something, you have to push the child. So going back to Yosef's point, whether one is obligated to or not is one discussion, but should, yes. I'm dealing with kids a lot more these days, and it's fascinating how the minds of children are like sponges, and you say something to them and they remember it, and you teach them a song and they'll remember the words, and you have no idea what they pick up on when they don't pick up. So if the years of a child being a minor are so critical that if someone says, well, I'm not obligated, therefore I won't say Shema, it's like how much the child is missing out on by saying the Shema, by reciting the Shema. The child really picks up a lot. So there is this, you have to separate what is required and what is proper. So this daf, all we're talking about is the requirements. Let's just go through it very quickly. Nashim avadim ktanim, ladies, servants, non-Jewish servants, and minors. The 5 mitzvot we spoke about were Shema, they're not obligated. Tefillin, they're not obligated. Tefilah, they are. Mezuzah, they are. They are. What's special about the first one, Kriyat Shema? When you say they're not obligated, isn't that obvious?
I think it's so important because you're accepting Hashem.
Very good. It's Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. You're accepting the heavenly yoke, so you might have thought they're required to, but no, they don't. Okay. Next one, Tefillin. Correct. It's positive time bound, so obviously they're not obligated. No, you might have thought that since it's connected to mezuzah in the text, they would be obligated. Therefore, it's taught explicitly to tell us they're not obligated to tefillin. Next, a hekesh. A hekesh is the juxtaposition. Okay, next, tefilah. Women are obligated. Why? That's why you might have thought that they're not, because you might have thought it's time bound, but it's not. And also, what does the Gemara say?
Asking for mercy, right?
It's not from the Torah, but the lashon of the Gemara is the rachameninu, that it's asking God for mercy, and women need mercy just as much as men do. And what did I add about what the Rambam tells us? That the Rambam says that it's a positive mitzvah from the Torah, but it's only once a day. And since it's only once a day, it's not time bound. So therefore they're obligated. Okay, good. What was the number 4? Mezuzah. Why are women obligated in mezuzah? It's not time bound. So isn't that obvious? Because it's connected to Limud Torah, which, by the way, we're learning that women are not obligated to. Fascinating. Very good. You guys are this is really, really, really the proper way to do this is to go look up that Gemara, learn that whole discussion, look up the next Gemara. Beautiful. And now we get up number 5. What is number 5? Berachot Hamazon. And
Why do you think it is time bound? Because it was so like structured in the day.
very good. You might think it is time bound because it says, the Torah says they eat meat in the evening and they eat bread in the morning, and so it's like time bound, but it's not. It's not time bound. And Tosfot adds 2 additional reasons why you would have thought women are not obligated. What are they?
Because they didn't inherit the land.
Very good. They did not inherit the land. Very good, Jaden. And because the text of the Berachot 20A talks about we gave us the brit on our flesh and they don't have it, so you might have thought they're not, but they are. Next time we are going to discuss the obligation of ladies to recite the Shema and children. Is it from the Torah or is it rabbinic? Okay, and if it is, does it make a difference? Okay, so with that, we'll stop. Be'ezrat Hashem. See you guys next week. Happy Chanukah. Be'ezrat Hashem. Enjoy the Chag. We'll see you next week.
Did the Amorim have that Musaf